so give us a proper evaluation. We'll happily reward your time. My name is Dawson Siavon.
I'm Christina Weekly.
I'm Gilbert Dela Cruz. And I'm Tyler Edwards.
And we are Overlock. So, how many parents do we have with us today? Good to know that the majority of us can obviously relate. But I want to say that I bet most of you can relate with how much of a pain these can be. If you obviously have a child, you can tell that we all use our phones a lot of our time during the day. They come out at the wrong place, at the wrong time, and they are especially a problem for your child. No matter how much of the perfect little angels you might think of them to be, when the report card comes out, sometimes that always isn't the case. And when the grades go down, the phones go away. But is getting rid of the primary source of communication the best way to solve this problem? Well, we usually think it is, but that's where we come in. Overlock is the mobile app that allows you to lock away their distractions and give you the control while they're away that you wish you had sooner. So let us unlock your child's potential with Overlock. So, this is our BMC. We went over it and constructed it for your use to use after once we're done. And let's go ahead and show you what we have. For our problem, the main problem here today is that children are spending way too much time on their phones during school. This is obviously cutting into their time to learn the necessary material that they need in order to succeed in the real world. So our solution is to create a mobile app that blocks away all these distractions like Instagram, YouTube, Snapchat, and video games, and making sure that they are on the right path to success. And how we do this is that we give the parent the control of seeing what their child does during the day. So our app allows you to collect data based on what apps are used, how long they're using them, how long they've spent on their app, as well as notifying whether or not the app is already blocked or not. It allows you to have full control over what your child does away from home. And as for our uniqueness, the best thing about us is that we are simple, easy, and customizable. Once you pick up the app, you'll be able to use it in a few clicks, and then once you're an advanced user, you'll be able to customize it to however you want your desires. And as for our competitors, we have Chore Monster and RPack. Chore Monster is made for the younger demographic of children, making sure that they get their chores done on time. So for us, focusing on teens, we don't really consider them a primary competitor, but at the same time, we take them into consideration because it helps with organization skills. But for RPack is the same, it's similar to our app in which you'll be able to lock apps, but in order to get the full use, you're gonna have to buy their premium, which is always a sad thing to do because you don't really know whether you're getting the bang for your buck.
In order to have a successful app, you need the people who are firstly going to use the app, otherwise known as early adopters. Our early adopters are going to be mothers aged from 25 to 45 with kids aged 10 to 17. That's roughly 32.8 million people in the US alone. The reason we chose mothers for our early adopters instead of fathers or something as vague as parents is because mothers are the primary caretakers of the child, and they'll most likely be updating and checking in on the app. The way that we plan to get to our customers is through our channels, such as our website, the App Store, the app, ads that we'll be purchasing, and social media such as Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And the way we plan to keep our relationships with the customers is through our website, the website newsletters, Q&A that will be on the website, our reviews and comments that are on the App Store and/or website.
So the way that we'll be measuring our success was through key metrics, which will be monitoring the number of active users, profit, rating, amount of downloads, and reviews that we're getting on places like Yelp. The cost structure for our entire app and startup is $10,114 going towards app development, doing the domain name, and to stay on the App Store. Our revenue stream will be based on two plans, the basic plan and the premium plan. The basic plan will get our revenue from ads from ads, and the premium plan will be paid monthly, quarterly, or yearly at our year one revenue of $974,000, estimating at 2,080 paying customers per month. So our total addressable market is 1.5 billion people. This is the number of English-speaking people in the world, but we narrowed that down to 85.8 million people, which are mothers in the U.S. who speak English. We multiplied this by the frequency of purchase, which is 3, and $13, which is the average unit price. And this brought us to $3.3 million in revenue. Our serviceable addressable market is mothers with teenage children who use smartphones, which is 32.8 million people, and the revenue for this is $1.2 billion. Our market share, we decided on a reasonable goal of reaching 100,000 people in our first year with a conversion rate of 25%, so that our actual market share revenue is $975,000.
Now, we'll be achieving this with the smoke test MVP. This MVP is basically just a one-page website that we'll be using to test the waters and see how many people will actually use it. And for people who will use it, they can subscribe to our newsletter, which will give them developer updates. We can ask them about things we want on the app to crowdsource what we want to know. On the website, it'll be a short description of our app, and it'll have everything that you need to know.
It did run on that right here.
Looks like we're having some technical difficulties.
There it is.
As you can see, it has screenshots of what our app will look like. It'll have what it'll do, and it'll also have how much it will cost, so the customer knows how much they're going to be paying. And all this will also lead over to the app preview, which basically is a short example of the app, and you can kind of click through and see what you'll be using before you actually install.
These are the app previews that Tyler was mentioning a second ago. So this would be the login screen. This would be the home page, which gives you a brief overview of what's going on in the app, such as any and all kids that are logged into the device, so you can see what their status is if you have anything locked, and how they're doing by the checklist, which is customizable according to the parents to see what they need to get done or what they have done. This is app stats. App stats will allow the user to see multiple statistics of all the apps. So time being used, when used, whether or not you're using data on the app, and it gives you a rundown of all the apps that are on the phone that you may not want your child to be using during school time. And this is just a menu slide.
So our cost estimation for our actual MVP is $600. This is going towards AdWords, which will be 3 months, and the domain name and website hosting for the 3 months that we'll be using it up until the next batch.
And as for our timeline, obviously you know that you have to set goals in order to actually achieve something. So today we already have our MVP pitch, 3 claps. Now we have that out of the way. In the future we plan on having our MVP trial period. This is where we're going to send out our MVP to the world and make sure that we have enough followers behind us in order to go to our next step. As for April 15th, we'll be having our mid check-in. This is at our midpoint, seeing how everything is with the customers, as well as any need for refinement. Hopefully we can get some that today. And for May 5th, we're going to be compiling the results for our MVP. This is where the big time shines. We've taken all of our results, and then once we have that, we move forward from there and send it out and start making some cash. So I'd like to thank you for your time, and would anybody happen to have any questions?
Could you explain the difference? On the one slide it had the basic plan and then how where your
for sure.
revenue stream would come. What's the difference between basic and 490?
So, for those 2 plans, I'm glad that you noticed that. The basic plan is basically our free trial. This one comes with ads. So, For the paying users, obviously you would get rid of the ads, but we didn't want to have the user pay for things that they should already have come with the app. More like, once you pay for this, you'll get the extra options for our app. One thing that we planned on incorporating was a babysitter function, so then if you don't really have time to take care of your kids, you can have a babysitter have the app on their phone, and then make sure that their child is getting the stuff done while your babysitter is obviously watching over them. As well as, I feel that you should have all the basic functions of the app once you get it for free, and anything that you pay beyond that gives you the extra functions. I feel like the only real difference between the prices is the amount of time that you can have these functions for. So we have the monthly plan, so if you wanted to give it a quick test drive, you could just spend $5, which we've actually figured was a proper amount of money by some comparisons that we took. We asked some people on the streets for what the desired price would be. And as for the 3 months, you can see it gets cheaper for the more time that you're willing to buy. And as for the yearly plan, this will cover the entire year, make sure that your child is protected during the entire span.
Also, we chose 3 months as a time span because that's roughly how long a quarter in school is. So if they want to test it out for 1 quarter of school to see if the child's grades go up based on the app's usage or not.
You said that there were 2 competitors, one for younger children and one for your age demographic. Is that true? There's only one other app that does this?
Yes, by what we've been able to observe. Obviously, the one thing that I would say that we're doing better with our app is our social media. We're able to get the word out there about our app much better than they have, since obviously we haven't been able to hear about it until we've researched. So the fact that they're not as popular as they should be is a real shame, but that's where we're going to step in. And as for Troll Monster, it is a popular app, but it's not our primary contender because it's meant to have little kids learn to do their chores, not to take care of their work and responsibilities.
You talked about your financials, it's almost $1 million your first year, just short of in revenue. Just being in business myself and working with a lot of entrepreneurs, that's a lofty goal. A lot of small businesses are not profitable for several years, and the statistics up there at that 5-year level. So take us a little bit how I know you took it and you just multiplied by 12 and said this is, I think you had, I can't remember what your monthly revenue was. Okay, so talk us through a little bit more what's that first 6 months gonna look like? And if there's 5% of that revenue in your first 3 months, what are you gonna do to shift? What types of things would you do to pivot to reach, first of all, how would you adjust your goal? And what types of things would you do to look at, okay, we did $20,000 of revenue in 6 months, we should have been at $500,000. What's our new goal and what are some things we could change? Just looking, as an entrepreneur, you gotta be very fluid and be checking those financials, daily, if not most of them, hourly.
We realize that it is a very, very high goal, but since it's an app and it's online, we figured that our reach would be a little bit bigger than just people who are like a product that is tangible. Because other groups are tangible products are targeting either Fresno or California area. But since ours is online, we decided that we would just target the entire United States as a whole. Since we got our numbers as mothers, that's where the large number comes from. As for the amount of people that we figured we'd reach this year, it was just an estimation goal, and after we talked to Mr. Mason, he said that this would be a reasonable goal to consider. But if we don't make our revenue in the amount of time that we have, I'm assuming we'll try and focus any revenue that we did make towards more ads to try and get us out there a little bit more, or we'll start going quote unquote door to door to try and get people to at least notice our app, because I think our main problem with an app would be getting noticed, because it's not a product that you would actually see someone holding. So if we don't make our revenue, we'll start going towards trying to get noticed more.
And if it happens to not be us not getting noticed, if it happens to be the other thing, which is our app not being successful in terms of usefulness, then we'll go through any and all review or comments that we get on any of our social media and whatnot. So we can revamp the app to suit people's needs.
So the cost, you had $10,000 to develop the app, is that something internally you do, or is that hiring somebody to develop your app?
Someone else to develop our app.
So would that also include changes? Would when you say we'll just make changes to our app, but just to be conscious that when you start to make changes and things, you got to consider your cost too. So now you have limited revenue coming in and you've got additional costs, which is very typical in businesses. So just want you to start to think about, what some of those other plans would be. And my other question was in your market reach.
Yes.
Just when you're talking about you're having a product that's on the internet, that you have a bigger reach. You have a bigger net than people just concentrating on Fresno. It's true, but how many other businesses are out there on this big net? And how do you get yourself noticed? So even that door-to-door thing, but maybe try to think of some other things that are really going to hone in and target that mom with those demographics you want. But that's a perfect demographic for your product. What are some types of social media, or what are some blogs they're reading? What are some mom groups? I mean, you got to really think these moms are busy too. And it's hard to filter through all the apps that are out there and what's the best thing for them. But a lot of them are probably going on referral or something that someone in their network is using. It may even be through, different support groups. But start to think about that and how do you reach that target market too, than just being on the App Store. You want to be on the App Store, but you still have to figure out how to drive people to go get that app.
The other thing to consider is, I know your age range of your mom was 25 to 45, who would have a 10-year-old to 17-year-old. So that 25-year-old mom would have to have the kid at 15 to have a 10-year-old. And since a lot of people have had children later, especially professional women, that this is tap for moms who maybe aren't home, like you said, with the babysitters, maybe they had their kids a little bit later. So why did you cap it at 45? How did you choose that 25 to 45 age for a mother?
Well, I feel like that age range is basically the prime years where women would usually have their children. But I would say it was very, I guess it was more for a convenience perspective. Obviously, there are a lot of professional women out there that do have children when they're older, but for the majority, I felt like it would have been respectable to put it in the age range that we've put it at. And we have taken it into consideration because we did have that number much lower. We actually had it at 15 years at one point, but then obviously, as you pointed out, they do have their children somewhere around that time, and you have to give them time to grow. So when they're around 25, they can have a 10-year-old child as well. And as you get older, the age range of the children also fluctuates, and it gives more time for them to grow.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't even see you. No, go ahead.